Okay, maybe 4 seconds, I guess. Or 5.2 seconds. Anyway, alright again. We're gonna continue. What if Anakin deleted the security recordings after or during Order 66? Recordings of Order 66, I mean. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Of course, happy Pride Month, and let's continue.
Anakin worded out how he executed the younglings in the Tower of the Jedi Temple, and he broke down. Tears fled his eyes as he tried to apologize, not to Obi-Wan or Padme, but those poor, innocent souls. He knew they all loved him. They told him every time they saw him in the hallways. They referred to him as Master Skywalker because in their young and little minds, he was nothing short of amazing. Anakin remembered each bone-chilling second. He could feel their terror rise. The shock in their faces haunting his vision as he tore through them. Not a word or a scream could be heard as each were faced with a polarizing death at the hands of their hero. The child who came from nothing to become the chosen one. Anakin's heart shattered into a million pieces as his head slumped over, wiping tears onto his shoulder. His chest felt like it was being caved in, and for the briefest moment, he felt like this pain, the one in his chest, could kill him. Anakin's eyes drifted up towards the people he loved most. He dreaded looking at them, especially after he told his encounter with the younglings. And when his eyes met the gaze of Obi-Wan, he saw nothing but horror and disappointment. He then moved his eyes over to Padme, and it looked as if she would die right here in this moment. He could feel her dread, and he could feel the rip tearing through each piece of fiber in her heart. Anakin tried to say something, but it was caught in his throat. There wasn't anything to be said. It was done. He killed those children without remorse. He didn't think about what he had done, and now the reality of his decision was facing him, this time in the form of Obi-Wan and Padme's love being twisted against them. How can you love someone who did something so evil? Was it remotely possible? Was there redemption to be had? As they sat with this, Obi-Wan received a call from Yoda. He lost the fight. Dale and Yoda were going to Polis Massa to lick their wounds before Yoda went into exile alone. Kenobi thanked Yoda for the update. While this call was taking place, Anakin tried to think of anything to say, same as Padme. But what could they say? What words could be actually shared? Hope you don't mess up again? The Tuskens were semi-excusable. They were a tribe of maniacs that fed off the weak, but these were Jedi, especially the younglings too. Padme knew that scolding Anakin would do nothing to make this go away, and never did. She wanted to say something, but not even she had the words to articulate her feelings. It almost felt like a part of her died. When Obi-Wan walked in, the room was still, eerily silent. Then Anakin made a proposition. He told them that they would likely never trust him again, and he still had to warp his mind around that. But they could work together to kill Palpatine. It didn't sound like a great idea, but it was better than allowing him to remain a threat in the galaxy. Obi-Wan looked at Padme as she shrugged her shoulders with a lifeless expression. Obi-Wan then turned back to Anakin and told him that he would hear out his plan and then decide from there. They eventually arrived in Naboo, where Padme would give birth to the twins, which Anakin would at the very least have the joy to be present for. After they were born, they left Padme, who was still in healthy condition, though her heart still very badly hurt her. Anakin and Obi-Wan instead returned to Coruscant as Grandmaster Yoda retreated into exile. The former master and apprentice duo didn't have much to say. Anakin typically would expect Obi-Wan to scold him or tell him how wrong he was, but there was nothing, simply silence. Truthfully speaking, Obi-Wan believed that he would die in this encounter. Even if Sidious was tired from his fight with Yoda, which he probably was, there was no way in which Kenobi saw himself coming out of this alive. They landed at the executive building as Skywalker pushed Obi-Wan out, who was wearing cufflinks behind his back. The two of them walked into Palpatine's office, where the Sith Lord was waiting patiently. Anakin walked Obi-Wan in before his new master, and told him that he brought Kenobi back so that Palpatine could make a public example of him. Sidious grinned, telling Skywalker that he had done well. It was a brilliant idea. Obi-Wan would make for the perfect public execution. He asked Skywalker if he was ready to learn what it would take to save his wife from her certain death. Anakin nodded, to which Sidious told Anakin to follow him. As the young apprentice moved to follow Palpatine, a red lightsaber ignited. At the same time, Kenobi broke free from his unlocked cufflinks and swung his own lightsaber forward. Obi-Wan could see it. Palpatine was going to kill Anakin, for he had betrayed him. Kenobi's blade blocked Palpatine's, saving Anakin from an instant death, as he ignited his own weapon and pressed forward. Sidious tapped his feet backwards, blocking the few strikes that came his way, before leaping over the Jedi and attacking Kenobi. Despite him thinking lesser of the Jedi Master, Obi-Wan was able to block the incoming strikes. Sidious was patient with his moves. It was one final victory until he could enjoy being the Emperor of the galaxy for good. The Jedi Order was dead as it was. For all he knew, aside from Yoda, it was Skywalker and Kenobi. This would be easy. Plus, for Palpatine, why worry about keeping Skywalker when Padme was delivering him a child instead? He threw his blade forward, as Obi-Wan blocked it, before being punched in the face. Skywalker marched forward, striking heavily and pushing Sidious back. Their blades were speedily clashing away at each other, as Obi-Wan joined in. They all tried to take the life of the other, but it wasn't getting anywhere. The biggest aid to their fight against Sidious was the fact that they had spent 13 years working together, and over the course of the last 3, they had fought with Dooku more than enough times. Though this wasn't Dooku, and they had to be ready for any unorthodox tricks. Sidious was trying to get a grip on Obi-Wan so he could lob him out the window, like he did to Windu. But the opportunity didn't present itself because Anakin kept getting in the way. Their brawl carried on throughout the office, cutting up furniture, carpets, and anything else in between. Palpatine was getting irritated, so he lobbed a broken chair across the room, smashing into Obi-Wan's leg as he fell to his knees. Anakin and Sidious clashed as Palpatine told a young, former apprentice that once they were dead, the child he and his wife had would be his. Sidious was attempting to throw Anakin off his game here, but he was more familiar with the dark side by this point. Anakin used the extra rage to push forward. Obi-Wan did the same, catching Sidious, who blocked and then threw him back again. Just as the Sith Lord took the same blade and dragged it across the wall and thrust the blade through Anakin's sternum, Skywalker huffed as he held his breath. He looked down and then back to Palpatine, who smiled with glee. Anakin reached for him with his bare hand, trying to stop him, but Sidious pulled his blade across and cut his arm off. Anakin felt the pain as he dropped his lightsaber and grabbed a hold of Sidious with his metallic hand. Palpatine panicked, trying to bring his lightsaber across Anakin's neck. Skywalker gripped Palpatine's throat and with all of his strength squeezed. Palpatine's blade slashed Anakin once more across the chest, from his ribs to his shoulder as he fell over, and Palpatine dropped to the ground lifelessly. Obi-Wan was quick to move to Anakin's side, catching him as he fell backwards. He lowered his former pupil to the ground, telling him to stay with him. Anakin was in a galaxy worth of pain as he tried to catch his breath. It was impossible, though. He couldn't keep it. Obi-Wan tried to get Anakin to focus on him, but his vision was blurry and fading out. Kenobi told Anakin that he was sorry for all of it. He never wanted Anakin to feel this burdened, and Skywalker stopped his master, shakily grabbing Obi-Wan's hand and telling him that he was not his failure. This decision laid on his shoulders alone. Anakin wheezed a little as he told Obi-Wan that he was the greatest teacher any student could have asked for. Obi-Wan didn't want to lose another like this. Please, not one more to die in his arms. He told Anakin that he could save him. He could find a medic or something. Anakin shook his head, telling Obi-Wan that he and Padme already saved him. He wasn't himself, and he wished he never did what he did. A tear slipped from Anakin's eye as he looked to his master, his vision getting even more shaky and his eyes even more blurry. He told Obi-Wan that he forever loved him. His lessons meant the most to him when he didn't have Obi-Wan around him. Then Anakin asked a question, barely making it through the previous sentence. He asked Obi-Wan if he could watch over the twins for him. Obi-Wan nodded his head, trying to fight every emotion within him so that he could be strong for his student. Obi-Wan promised that they would know who their father was, and what Anakin did as his last fight against evil. Anakin smiled as he slowly drifted back. His body became heavier with each passing second, and Obi-Wan tried to grip him, hoping that holding him harder would make him come back, make him stay alive, but it didn't. Anakin had become one with the Force. While Obi-Wan couldn't see it or feel it, his former master had his hand on his shoulder. Kenobi held his student lifelessly, while his master stood behind him, always watching, always seeing the Jedi that his student became. Obi-Wan eventually had to leave. He gathered up Anakin and ran. There would be security recordings of Anakin and Obi-Wan entering the room, as well as recordings of them leaving it. But for Palpatine's office, the security recordings were still turned off, so Palpatine would be found without a lightsaber wound, but a broken neck. didn't change anything. It was clear the Jedi were behind this. When Obi-Wan returned to Naboo, he came with a casket that was currently holding Anakin. As he left the starship, Padme's sister came up to him. Her face was puffy, as if she had been crying. Sola asked Obi-Wan what had happened, and he with a very weak voice told her that Anakin killed Palpatine. The Sith were destroyed. She told him that was good, but she asked him to sit with her. This immediately worried Obi-Wan. What could have happened while he was gone? Sola and Obi-Wan sat down. She was well aware of how close Padme and Obi-Wan were. She was also well aware of the bond between Obi-Wan and Anakin, so she took no pleasure in delivering this news. Padme had died shortly after he left. Obi-Wan's heart shattered. He looked over and his breath slipped from his mouth as he felt a stabbing pain in his chest. He asked if it was his fault, and Sola told him it wasn't. She grabbed his hand and told him that it wasn't his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. Padme died of a broken heart. She was consumed by loss. Obi-Wan bit his lip and nodded his head as he tried to fight his emotions, but he couldn't. His best friends were gone. Their children left without parents. His order was in shambles. The Grand Master had gone away to exile, and here he was, with a promise to take care of 2 children without parents. Obi-Wan eventually allowed his emotions to release, and it hurt more than anything else in his life. It had been a horrid 48 hours, and he wished it was all a bad dream. But it wasn't. He, Dale, and Mon would be present for Padme and Anakin's funeral. It would be revealed during this funeral that they were married. Obi-Wan walked with the family, disguised, of course, as someone that wasn't the Jedi Master. When the grueling process was over, Obi-Wan was left with Luke, Leia, and Promise. Kenobi would hold that promise, and he would do as he said he would. He raised the twins on his own, going under the secret identity of Ben Kenobi. It was very hard for him, but the Nabaris considered him one of their own, because he had been such a great friend of Padme throughout her entire life. Ben took up a normal life on Naboo and raised the twins with the help of the family. He would eventually find himself a partner, and his life would turn around pretty positively. The Empire itself recovered from Palpatine's death. Mas Amedda kept the Senate in check as they moved to a more democratic system, one where they could control who became an aristocrat or not, before the system eventually abandoned those ideals. Order 66 still remained prevalent, but there would never be a crackdown on Force-sensitive people or speaking about the Jedi of old. The 100 or so survivors of Order 66 would disappear, some of them becoming darker iterations of their former self, like Baylan Skoll, some joining the Inquisitors and eventually dying off, others remaining like Obi-Wan and Yoda, staying hidden until the time was right. Over the next 40 or so years, Ahsoka would reunite with Obi-Wan and of course fight and kill Darth Maul in one final rematch. Ben would raise the twins as normal kids, but also teach them the Force and tell them stories about their parents. They of course called Ben their father and eventually had themselves a little sister, one that was actually Obi-Wan's biological child. But he never treated his daughter any differently from the way he treated the twins. In Obi-Wan's mind, he saw Anakin's fall as such, that while his actions can't be forgiven, it would be his return from darkness that saved the galaxy from Palpatine. That perhaps was a greater feat than anything. He saved the people from an emperor that would have done such carnage and evil to the galaxy. The Jedi wouldn't ever return. Obi-Wan had no intention to rebuild. While he would learn to communicate with Qui-Gon, he decided that it was time to let go. He knew that if the Order was to return, they would. If not, it wasn't his burden. He had 38 years worth of suffering as a Jedi. It was time he got a good life. It did provide retrospect on how he should have left the Order, and what other what-ifs could have been done during his life as a Jedi. But this perhaps was the best one. Sure, filled with pain, but his resolution was greater than even what he could have predicted. And he got to live a life with the Force brought to balance because of Anakin. Generations after Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia had passed, there would be a young adventurer. One that went out into the galaxy to discover the secrets of the Force. This individual would eventually find themselves inside the Jedi Temple of Coruscant, which had been left barren for centuries by this point. They would follow lessons from the past, learn of Order 66 and Yoda and the Sith. The adventurer would find themselves on Ahch-To after years of investigation. And in a galaxy that hadn't seen a real war since the Clone War, it would have itself a new Jedi Order. And that, my friends, is our story. Again, special thanks to our patrons: Benjamin Wells, Ozpin, Angel Dust, Alexandra Reese, The Beginning and End, Django Fat Clone, Nick5098, INTJ Recluse, Ben Ingram, The Big Red Pure Mark, Diamond Constant, Darth Nemesis, Lord Tibbs, CC2024, Galaxy Gaming, Tristan, Mandalore, Sir William 1767, Darth Revan, Granity Bane, Laliant, Sky Guy, Penguin, Cullen Rooney, Shark Midori, RJ38, Nick, Michael Erlanger, The Last Jedi, Apollo, Weewa 670, Annika Stank Runner, CT7567, Toaster Oven, Oz of Oz, Darth Nox, The Eternal Padawan, Joshua Tam, Johnny DeGuin, Sansa Skeleton, Jedi Sloth, Mr. Yeet Gamer, Lord Cali, Galaxy 66, Mammoth Studios, Anakin 003, Lord Draken, Photos Legacy Star Wars, Airbus, Rex the Wolf, The Man 3 First Names, Dark Saint 46, Baron Joshua, and Lord Deadwing. For supporting the channel, smash that like button, support me other ways, check out the Patreon, cool things on there. Otherwise, let's talk about this story. Well, that was kind of sad. The emphasis on the darker sides of the story are really what I wanted to focus on and how Obi-Wan deals with them. This is more of a love letter to Obi-Wan than I think anyone else. But I also wanted to highlight some of the things that Anakin did, because Order 66 is kind of turned into a meme, and so I wanted to kind of give some more personality and more to Obi-Wan than I think anyone else. But I also wanted to highlight some of the things that Anakin did, because Order 66 is kind of turned into a meme.
How is that a meme now? How? No! No. How did Order 66 become a meme? I don't know, how did Order 66 become a meme now, really? How? I don't get it. But anyway, let's continue.
And so I wanted to kind of give some more personality and more emotional weight to what should be considered a really emotional scene. Obi-Wan goes through a lot of loss in this video, and I think it's because of this loss that he decides that he doesn't want to rebuild the Order. And I think that's a more fitting end for him, where he chooses a life for himself, where he gets to experience love and happiness with the people that he wants to be around. And then, in my opinion, a fun way to end it was having an adventurer, someone that I don't know, that you don't know, whoever in your mind's eye is this adventurer is the one who goes out and rebuilds the Jedi Order. So, I hope you all enjoyed. I love you all, spread the love, and always remember, my friends, may the Force be with you.
When you...
Yep, wait. And that's the end of that. Oh. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And also, I did 2 parts of this video too, by the way. I'm back to 2. What if Boba Fett joined the clones? The clone army. I reacted to that video, and I made that into 2 parts. So that's on my channel now. I think I made it into 2 parts or 1 part, I'm not sure. But this I made it into 2 parts. But yeah, actually I think I did 2 parts. Let me see. Let me look. Let me go here. And then my videos. Oh yeah, I did this one. Back to Order Boba Fett joined the Clone Army Part 1, and then Part 2. I split it into 2 parts to like a long video like this one right here. Or a 35-minute video. So, like this video, I split it into 2 parts. Part 1 and 2. So, I'm gonna react to this video later, or now, when I have part 1 and part 2, part 1 of this uploading now, but I'm gonna have it uploaded in a couple minutes, and I'll upload this part will be part 2 later, and I'm gonna react to this one after I upload that video. But yeah, bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll have PPSW's channel in the description below. I'll have it in the description below so you watch the original video. And don't forget to check out my reaction playlist to see my older reactions I did over a year ago. Actually, you can see it now. Yeah. Go here. My reactions. But yeah, I did all these reactions I've done over in the past. You can also check out my old reactions I did like over a month ago. Like these reactions I've done too. Even ones I did over a year ago. 3 months ago. 3 months ago. Like, yeah, don't want to check out these reactions too I did over a month ago. If I keep going. This one I did over 1 year ago. Don't need this now, because that's that. But yeah, this one I did over a year ago, so don't forget to check my reactions I did over a year ago as well. And I'll have the description of PPSW's channel in the description below, so you can check out his channel. And again, like how I have this one right here split into 2 parts, I'm going to split this one into 2 parts as well. So bye for now, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And happy Pride Month. Pride Month. And now I'm going to go and upload part 1 and then part 2 afterwards. Bye.